the incident investigators don't know what they found when they find it. And probably the last one, which may need to affect the next version of the OWASP top 10, is misconfiguration. We found out that at the end of the day, misconfiguration, putting the wrong files in the wrong place, not fixing known vulnerabilities, which might be integrated in other parts of the chart as well, but I put it in a different slice, are responsible for nearly 3 out of 10 attacks. And they were removed from the OWASP top 10 in the last version because they are old. I think that one of the things that we see here, they take the bad guys a very long period of time to acquire new technology. We speak about it for years, we researchers, but the bad guys find good ways to exploit it, and it's not technical ways, it's mostly economical way to exploit it only years after. The most commonly used attack these days is SQL injection. It exists, it's known for how many years? At least, yes. The first company doing web application firewall started in 2007. They were there for solving SQL injections. And now the bad guys are starting to take advantage of that. So cross-site press forgery would be very big in a few years' time. What did we learn more than that? So I don't like this slide. The reason I don't like this slide is because it shows exactly where the web hacking in the database has its own problems. At the end of the day, the two things mostly disclosed are defacements and information leakage. And therefore, that's what we see here. But it's a good time to mention another way to use the web hacking in the database. Look for the incidents that are of interest to you. You come from a specific industry segment, look for incidents in companies like you. You have to study a specific type of vulnerability, go to the vulnerabilities relevant to you. So we have stories about denial of service attacks, and we have stories about extortion using denial of service attacks. We don't have many of them, but they are good for you when you have to go to your managers and convince them the problem is there. It's not all about statistics, you know, yes?
What has been the impact of cross-site scripting?
What type of attacks are in...
What has been the impact of cross-site scripting?
I would say that it's an interesting question. I didn't do this cross-tabbing of this and the previous slide. I would say there's a very good match between SQL injection and leakage. And so cross-site scripting goes to other parts. It might be defacement. A lot of phishing attacks use cross-site scripting to be more genuine. That's the sort of things that are attributed to cross-site scripting. But it's a good idea to do that next time. Okay. Now this one is interesting. Which organizations are attacked? So first of all, government organizations, at least on our database, are high up. Very, very prominent. My guess is that it has some truth in it, but there are other issues with the government. The government discloses more. It has a liability to disclose, especially in English-speaking countries. Maybe if I went to other type of countries, the government would be the one to disclose the least. But they do disclose more. It may be also that they have more, stable, old-fashioned security teams or IT in general, so they are less adept to mitigating new threats. Something to look into. The second largest probably is education. Now education suffers from the same problems as government. Need to disclose, stable, arcane, old times in IT and security. There's also a very big challenge in protecting educational networks because they have to be open. Retail. We see more retail than you would think. And I guess that the analysis I didn't do as to what type of attacks are targeted at retail, and again, the number of incidents is not big enough to have a very meaningful cross-tabbing, is that retail is about stealing credit card information. And that shows us why PCI is so important. Because it happens. Because they don't work well, they lose information, and we need PCI to protect us. And they are doing a lot due to PCI. They are investing money. You should know that retail shops that you see on the net might seem small, sound small, but be very big. We have a customer who's selling, well, gadgets online. It has a gadgety name. And when we got there, we found 3 people doing IT security, everything, and they sell for $150 million a year. So these are the environments we are getting into, and they are hacked, and therefore PCI has to force them to protect their environment. I grouped together 3 things, which I'll talk about later. We are starting to see more attacks targeted directly at internet-based businesses. Might be media, might be hosting providers or service providers. It might be, the search engines of the world. I'll talk about it later. I think there's a business model there. There's a reason for that, and there's a big security issue there. And lastly, the banks. Don't think that they do security better than they do finance. But on the other hand, just like they were able not to tell us how bad was their credit situation for a couple of years, they are very good in not telling us how bad their security situation is. So maybe next year will be the year of the banks in my charts. Today they are very low there. And by the way, it also means they are slower in adapting technology. Because when I look at what I see in the market, PCI is driving retail shops smaller than you think to invest a lot in security, in web security, and the bank dinosaurs are not doing enough. Okay, so what's new for 2008? I think that until now, I told you we had 100 stories in 2007. We were focusing, the bad guys were focusing on targeted attacks. Targeted attacks are one-time sort of sting jobs. So they don't scale. It's nice, it's like, Ocean 11, like Ocean 11 sort of. But it doesn't create a large organized crime sort of business. And I think that last year, the bad guys found how to use web application vulnerabilities in order to create a sustainable business model for them. In essence, we found out this year that web hacking is replacing malware, which were the key way the bad guys were working 3 years ago, and viruses from 6 years ago, as the major security threat exploited by the bad guys. How do they do it? The way they do it is by going after the desktops through the websites. So it's not anymore trying to penetrate a specific bank to steal money. It's going after the masses of desktops through the websites. As a result, one of the things that happened is that if in the past smaller sites did not have a lot to fear from due to the reason that there was nothing to lose there. Think about an informational site. When I started doing web application security, I always heard, it's an informational site, we don't have a problem, there's no need to protect it. Nobody will hack it. Now